This radio belongs to a friend of mine here in the local FPV community. He actually bought a quadcopter from me recently. And when he came to pick up the quadcopter, he brought me his radio. And he said, it won't turn on. Check it out. You hear it's trying to turn on, but nothing's happening. This is actually way more common than you might think. Actually, if it's happened to you, you know just how common it really is. So I thought, what a great opportunity to help out somebody in the local community, do a favor. I could probably whip this into shape and make a video at it while I'm at it. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. We're going to fix this radio. He hasn't peeled the plastic. I want to peel it so bad. But it's really disrespectful to peel somebody else's appliance. Your radio comes with this protective plastic on the screen. You can see it's kind of bubbled and scratched. You can peel it off, and it's really satisfying. But I'm not going to do it. It would be wrong. All right, so the first thing that I like to do in a situation like this is take out the battery. What the flip is going on with his... Are you for real? The flip. Let's take out the battery. Oh, I got it. I don't think this is a... Oh, I see. Battery. Yeah, battery cover wouldn't come off. Take out the battery, and we're just going to unplug the battery and power cycle the radio. And this isn't going to fix it. We'll give it a try anyway. No, okay. The next thing to do is take out the SD card. And it turns out he does not have an SD card in there at all, so that is not an issue. It might surprise you to learn that a problem with the SD card could prevent the radio from powering up. But the SD card contains data that is essential for OpenTX's operation, except you can't operate the radio with no SD card at all. It'll work fine. It won't have like audio alerts, but it'll basically work. But then sometimes if you do have an SD card, but the SD card is like messed up in some way, the radio will refuse to boot. So taking out the SD card just fixes it. By the way, the SD cards that come with these radios, and this is true for basically every radio on the market, they are the cheapest, worst, crappiest SD cards that you could possibly get for pennies. And they basically always die eventually. So pretty much the minute I get a new radio, I take the SD card out and I copy the contents to an actual, like, you spend $5 on like a Kingston SD card, and then I put that in the radio. It'll betray you sooner or later. The next thing that we need to do involves opening up the back of the radio. So we're going to take these screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and open the radio up. It's been a while since I opened up an X9D style radio. On the Radio Masters, the Jumpers, and even the QX7 from FreeSky, they made it possible... Oh, no screw there. No screw there. Oh, we're missing some screws. Great, that'll make it easier. They modified the shell of the radio so that the rear cover comes off without any of the electronics coming with it. And... oh, we got no screws there either. Fantastic. It's so easy. Great, he's only got 2 screws. It's going to make it much easier to open this radio up. Another aspect of the X9D that's a little annoying is that these switches are sandwiched in between the 2 halves of the shell. So if you remove the shell, the switches can flop out. Same thing is true for these potentiometers. So what I like to do before I take the radio apart is I just push the switches away. And that way if they fall out, I know which direction they are supposed to go back in. I haven't had to do that in a while because I haven't been inside one of these radios in a while. I'm now going to just gently separate the halves, and I'm just going to carefully... Oh, okay, so he is... I see. Oh, it looks like he's put an aftermarket momentary switch here. That's fine. That at least will not be directional in any way. And this little fella here is what we're after. This coin cell keeps the radio's memory powered up, and we're just going to pop that out. We'll just wait for 30 seconds, then put it back in. And we'll carefully reassemble the radio. Make sure everything goes back together correctly. And We'll plug the battery in and cross our fingers. No, same problem. All right, now I hope you don't think I've just been wasting your time. Those things actually solve the problem. Like 50% of the time, those things solve the problem. They didn't solve it this time, but I wanted to show them to you anyway, because that would always be the first thing I would do anytime you've got an OpenTX, not just a Tyrannus, but any OpenTX radio that doesn't boot up. The next thing I'm going to try to do is boot the radio up in bootloader mode. Like a lot of electronic devices, the radio has a bootloader, which is a little program inside it that sort of gets the whole thing going. And in cases where for some reason the operating system won't load, sometimes you can still get the bootloader to load, and maybe that can save you. The way you boot into bootloader mode on most OpenTX radios is you hold the trim switches inward, and while holding them inward, you press the power button. Same thing happened. Didn't work. If we were able to get the radio into bootloader mode, then we could flash new firmware from an SD card, and that might be easier than what I'm just about to have to do, which is the nuclear option when the radio won't boot up. Now I've got another video I made about 3 different ways to... It's mini USB. It's not even micro USB. Free Sky. This isn't even the old version of the X9D. This is the Access version. This is a new radio. Come on, Free Sky. Fortunately, it's not my first time. Now I've got a video about how to flash OpenTX. 3 different ways to flash OpenTX to a radio. And the final way is the way I'm going to show you now. And it involves plugging in USB to the radio with the power off. And you can see that the radio has lit up here. It is powered up. And I've got my device manager here in Windows because I want to see if any new devices pop up. And sure enough, yes, unknown USB device descriptor request failed. Oh. No. Come on, baby. Oh. 2 of them. Device descriptor request failed. Oh, this is bad. That's bad. Whenever you've got device descriptor request failed, it usually means bad hardware. Basically, USB says to the device, hey, what are you? Are you a joystick? Are you a mouse? Are you a headset? And if it can't do that... and the problem is that even if you flashed bad firmware, like you flashed the wrong firmware to the radio, the bootloader should still be able to work. The DFU mode bootloader is built into the chip that runs the radio. And if you plug in USB and you get device descriptor with power off, power is off. If you plug in USB with power off and you get device descriptor request failed, that usually means bad hardware. Because there's just nothing that should mess up bootloader mode. Let's make absolutely sure we're in bootloader mode by taking the battery out. Like on a flight controller, you hold down the bootloader button and plug in USB to put it into bootloader mode, DFU mode. So on this radio, there's nothing like that. You just plug in USB with the power off. I don't think there's a workaround for this. Let's try some workarounds though. I'm going to plug into a different USB port on the computer. Instead of this USB hub, I'm going to plug directly into the computer. Same thing. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try a different adapter in case my adapter is messed up, because it's a possibility. Nope. I was hoping to be able to easily fix this guy's radio, but I'm afraid we have to conclude that there is some kind of hardware damage to the radio at this point. Anytime if this was a flight controller, I would come to the same conclusion. If you have device descriptor request failed, that could mean you flashed the wrong firmware to it and it just doesn't know how to USB. But when you put it into DFU bootloader mode, whether that's a flight controller by holding down the bootloader button or on this type of radio by just plugging in with the power off, that is not something you as an end user can screw up. unless you just take a soldering iron and jam it into the board and damage the board. The DFU bootloader is baked into the chip and is the sort of ultimate fallback to let you fix if you flash the wrong firmware to the radio or something. And if that's not working, if we're getting device descriptor request failed, it's not even like the drivers are messed up. If the drivers were messed up, we would get a different error. But device descriptor request failed is just, we're done. So, thank you for coming along with me. If you are trying to fix your radio and your radio won't boot up, I hope that one of the things I told you has fixed it. The last one that I can't demonstrate to you because this radio is borked would be to flash it using DFU mode. I'll put a link in the video description to my video where I showed how to do that. And that's it. Sometimes it's just broke. And that appears to be the case here. What's the fix? The fix is probably a new... did I put the screws back in? No, I didn't. The fix is probably a new main board, which is this board. You can buy this for... I don't know how much it is. Or I actually don't. I'm not sure if this same main board will work if this is for a... for an ACCST radio, whether it'll work for an X, but this one's $55. So that is probably what I would recommend. In fact, this would be a better video if I actually fix the radio. Maybe I should just find one and buy it. Doesn't, oh, you son of a beast. It looks like these buttons are soldered right here. These solder points are for the buttons, 1, 2, 3. It used to be that you could just buy a new main board and it would come ready to, I think. I'm not sure if that's ever been true. Maybe that hasn't been true. All right, well, I take it back. I'm not freaking soldering on buttons. You're going to need to send this in for service, maybe to a Loft Hobbies, who's the USA Service Center. That is it for this video and for this radio. Bummer. Happy flying. Sorry, dude. I can't fix your radio. She did. Do you see this baby? Isn't he cute? Hit the subscribe button. Join my Patreon. Use my affiliate links. Or just keep watching videos. That's better than nothing.
Go, go, gaga. Subscribe to my daddy.